I wasn't good enough to be his wife. But somehow, I was good enough to be on every billboard in Times Square. My name is Hannah Riley, I'm 30, and 2 years ago, my world fell apart in Omaha, Nebraska. My husband, Colin, walked out on our 5-year marriage, leaving a note on the kitchen counter. I've found someone who fits my future better. That someone was Vanessa, his coworker, the dream girl he'd been secretly seeing for months. He said I was holding him back, too small town, too ordinary. I was devastated, but I didn't beg him to stay. I let him go. And then I rebuilt myself into someone he'd never forget. Colin and I met in college at the University of Nebraska. I was studying photography, dreaming of capturing stories through my lens. He was in business, all charm and ambition, talking about big city lights and corner offices. We got married at 25, settled in Omaha, and I thought we were happy. I worked as a freelance photographer, booking weddings and family portraits, while Colin climbed the ladder at Horizon Logistics, a shipping company. He started coming home late, blaming work stress. I believed him, until I found a receipt for a dinner for 2 at a restaurant we'd never been to. When I confronted him, he didn't even deny it. "Hannah, I need more," he said, his voice cold. "Vanessa gets me. She's going places. You're stuck." Stuck? I'd supported him through late nights, cooked dinners when he was too busy, even lent him money for his car when his bonus didn't come through. But to him, I was just a stepping stone. The next day, he packed a bag, left his key, and moved in with Vanessa. Our divorce was finalized in 6 months, and I was left with a half-empty apartment and a broken heart. I could have crumbled. Friends told me to move on, date again, forget him. But every time I picked up my camera, I saw his words, small town, ordinary. They burned. So I made a choice. I wasn't going to stay broken. I started pouring everything into my photography. I took online courses, learned editing software, and began submitting my work to contests. One shot, a silhouette of a Nebraska farmer against a sunset, won a regional award. That led to a gig with a local magazine, then a contract with a national travel brand, Wanderlust Media. Wanderlust sent me to New York last summer to shoot a campaign for their City Dreamers series, highlighting people chasing big dreams in big cities. I spent weeks in Manhattan, capturing street artists, chefs, and dancers. My photos were raw, real, full of heart. The campaign director, Mia Chen, loved them. "Hannah, these are billboard-worthy," she said. I laughed it off, but she wasn't kidding. Wanderlust picked my work for a Times Square ad campaign, plastering my photos and my name on a 12-story screen. I didn't tell anyone, not even my parents. I wanted to see it for myself first. Back in Omaha, I heard through mutual friends that Colin and Vanessa were engaged. They were planning a big New York wedding, a fresh start in the city. Colin had landed a promotion, and Vanessa was climbing the corporate ladder at Horizon. They were the golden couple, or so they thought. I didn't care until I learned they'd be in New York the same week my billboards went up. The timing was too perfect. I wasn't going to chase Colin down or beg for his attention. I'd let the city do the talking. I started planning. Wanderlust was hosting a launch event for the campaign in Times Square, and I'd be there, not just as the photographer, but as a guest speaker. I reached out to Mia, asking if I could invite a few personal guests. She agreed. No questions asked. I sent Colin and Vanessa an email, posing as a Wanderlust assistant. "You're invited to our City Dreamers launch event, a celebration of art and ambition in New York." I knew Colin's ego wouldn't resist a VIP invite. They RSVP'd within hours. "Hey, if you're hooked on this story, hit that subscribe button for Revenge Line. We bring you epic family drama and revenge tales every week. Drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from, Omaha, New York, or somewhere else. Stay tuned because Hannah's about to light up Times Square. The Wanderlust Media launch event was a week away, and I was in New York, putting the final touches on my plan. Colin, my ex-husband, and his fiancée Vanessa thought they were heading to a fancy Times Square gala as VIPs, unaware that I, Hannah Riley, the small-town photographer they'd dismissed, was the star of the show. My photos for the City Dreamers campaign were about to light up a 12-story billboard, and my name would be front and center. Colin had left me 2 years ago, calling me ordinary and saying Vanessa was his dream girl. Now, he'd see my face glowing over Times Square, and I'd make sure he felt every word he'd said. Back in Omaha, I'd spent months rebuilding myself after the divorce. Photography became my lifeline. Every late-night editing, every rejection from a gallery, every small win, like that Nebraska sunset shot, pushed me forward. When Wanderlust picked my work for their campaign, it wasn't just a job. It was proof I was more than Colin's shadow. Mia Chen, the campaign director, had become my biggest cheerleader. "Your photos tell stories," she'd said. "We're making you the face of this launch." I didn't tell her about Colin or my plan. This was personal. I needed to ensure everything was perfect. I met Mia at Wanderlust's Manhattan office, a sleek loft buzzing with creative energy. We reviewed the event plan. My photos would debut on the billboard at 8 p.m., followed by my speech about chasing dreams. The guest list included ad execs, influencers, and, thanks to my fake invite, Colin and Vanessa. I'd also invited my old friend Ellie, who'd stayed close after the divorce. She was in New York for work and knew the whole story. "You're really doing this," she said over coffee, her eyes wide. "Colin's gonna lose it when he sees you up there." I smiled. Good. He deserves to. To make sure Colin and Vanessa showed up, I had Sarah, my assistant from Omaha, send a follow-up email from the Wanderlust team, confirming their VIP seats near the stage. I also dug into their lives a bit, just to know what I was walking into. Ellie, who still had mutual friends in Omaha, filled me in. Colin's promotion at Horizon Logistics came with a big ego boost, and Vanessa was flaunting her engagement ring on social media, calling herself a future New Yorker. They thought they were untouchable. I let them believe it. I also prepped my speech. It wasn't just about the campaign. I wanted it to hit Colin where it hurt. I wrote about starting over, about being underestimated, about proving yourself when no one believes in you. I didn't mention him by name, but he'd hear himself in every line. Mia loved the draft. "This is raw, Hannah," she said. "People will feel it." I nodded, my mind on the moment Colin would see my name on that screen. The day before the event, I walked through Times Square, staring up at the spot where my billboard would light up. The noise, the lights, the chaos. It was everything Colin had wanted. Everything he'd said I could never handle. I took a photo of the empty screen and sent it to Ellie. "Tomorrow, that's me," I texted. She replied with a fire emoji. "Burn it down, Hannah." I spent that night in my hotel room, going over every detail. My dress, a deep emerald green, bold but elegant, was pressed and ready. My slides for the speech were backed up on a USB drive and my laptop. I'd asked Mia to display my full name, Hannah Riley, photographer, on the billboard alongside the photos. Colin wouldn't miss it. I also had Sarah pull my old emails to Colin from when we were married, ones where I'd shared my photography dreams, and he'd replied, "That's cute, but stick to weddings." I didn't plan to use them, but they were my reminder. He'd never believed in me. The morning of the event, I got a text from Ellie. "Just saw Colin and Vanessa checking into their hotel. They're all dressed up, acting like they own the city." I smiled, my hands steady. They thought they were walking into a glamorous night. Instead, they were walking into mine. I wasn't going to confront them or make a scene. I'd let the billboard, the crowd, and my success do the talking. Hey, if you're loving this revenge story, smash that subscribe button for Revenge Line. We drop epic tales of betrayal and triumph every week. Comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Stay tuned because Hannah's about to make Times Square unforgettable. The night of the Wanderlust Media launch event in Times Square was electric. The air buzzed with anticipation, neon lights flashing across the crowd gathered below the 12-story billboard. I, Hannah Riley, stood backstage in my emerald green dress, my heart pounding but steady. 2 years ago, my ex-husband Colin had walked out, calling me small town and ordinary, choosing his dream girl Vanessa over me. Now my photography for the City Dreamers campaign was about to light up Times Square with my name in bold. Colin and Vanessa were in the audience, thinking they were VIPs at a glamorous gala. They had no idea I was the star, and their reckoning. I peeked through the curtain, spotting Colin and Vanessa in their front row seats. He was in a sleek suit, whispering to her, probably bragging about his new life in New York. Vanessa, draped in a glittering dress, laughed, her engagement ring catching the light. My friend Ellie, sitting nearby, caught my eye and gave a thumbs up. She'd promised to record their reactions when the billboard lit up. I took a deep breath, clutching my note cards. This wasn't just about my photos, it was about showing Colin what he'd thrown away. Mia Chen, Wanderlust's campaign director, took the stage, her voice booming over the speakers. "Tonight, we celebrate dreamers who capture the heart of this city," she said. "Our City Dreamers campaign showcases their stories through the lens of an extraordinary photographer. Let's welcome Hannah Riley." The crowd erupted in applause as I stepped into the spotlight, my heels clicking on the stage. Colin's head snapped up, his eyes wide. Vanessa's smile froze, her hand gripping his arm. I smiled, calm and composed, letting their shock sink in. "Thank you, Mia," I said, my voice clear. "I'm Hannah Riley, a photographer from Omaha, Nebraska. 2 years ago, I was told I'd never make it in a city like this, that I was too ordinary to chase big dreams." I paused, my gaze flickering to Colin. His face was pale, his mouth slightly open. But I didn't listen. I poured my heart into my work, and tonight, you'll see it on that screen. I nodded to the tech crew, and the billboard lit up. A vibrant collage of my photos, a street artist painting, a chef laughing, a dancer mid-spin. Below it, in bold letters, Hannah Riley, City Dreamers. The crowd gasped, then cheered, cameras flashing. Colin stared at the screen, his jaw slack. Vanessa whispered something, her face tight. I kept going, my speech weaving through my journey, starting with small gigs in Omaha, rebuilding after heartbreak, landing this campaign. "This is for anyone who's been underestimated," I said. "You don't need permission to shine." The crowd roared, but I caught Ellie's grin. She was filming Colin, who looked like he'd been punched. After my speech, Mia invited me to stay on stage as they played a video montage of my photos. Each one hit harder than the last, the crowd's cheers growing louder. Colin and Vanessa stayed glued to their seats, unable to leave without drawing attention. When the event ended, I stepped off the stage and Ellie rushed over, laughing. "You should have seen their faces, Hannah. Colin looked like he was going to faint." I smiled. "Good." Colin approached me as the crowd thinned, Vanessa trailing behind. "Hannah, can we talk?" he said, his voice strained. I raised an eyebrow. "What's there to talk about? You made your choice." Vanessa stepped forward, her smile forced. "This is impressive, Hannah, but let's not make this awkward." I laughed, sharp and cold. "Awkward? You called me a nobody while I was building this. Enjoy the view." I gestured to the billboard, still glowing with my name. I walked away, leaving them standing there, the Times Square lights reflecting in their stunned faces. Mia pulled me aside later, offering me a full-time role with Wanderlust. "You're a star," she said. I accepted, knowing this was just the beginning. Back in Omaha, word spread. Friends texted me, amazed, and even my parents called to say they were proud. I didn't need their validation anymore. I'd found my own. Hey, if you loved this epic comeback, smash that subscribe button for Revenge Line. We drop the best family drama and revenge stories every week. Comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Thanks for joining us. I left Times Square that night, the billboard still shining behind me. Colin thought he'd left me broken. Instead, he saw me on a 12-story screen, proving I was always enough.